All right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the June Klamath Film Meeting. I'm sure the thunderstorm is keeping people away. That's okay. If people have power, appreciate you being here. Um, there's been a lot happening over the past month, and we have a really cool featured guest tonight who should be joining us in probably about maybe 20 minutes or so. Shelley Lipkin is going to be our guest. He's a longtime actor and
Excuse me.
sometimes director and producer. He lives in Portland. We met him last year because he had a film
That's
in
a
the film
100.
festival. It did not win an award, but it was very highly rated by our judges. He made a film called Inheritance that was about two sisters whose mom had died of breast cancer, and one of the sisters has tested positive for the gene potentially for breast cancer, and trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life going forward if she wants to tackle it earlier, see what happens. So very well done film, and come to find out, Shelley's been there, done that in the industry. He's been acting since 1980. He's been on going back to things like appearing on Laverne and Shirley. Um, oh, hey, there he is, right there, actually. Um, whole bunch of stuff. Hello, Shelley. Hey, Shelley.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I was just talking about you.
Okay.
Oh, really? Hopefully,
Yeah,
good things.
we're we have a bit of a thunderstorm blowing through Klamath at the moment, and I think it's
Oh,
keeping
really?
people away, and it may be causing some power issues potentially. There's been some lightning strikes. So we have a small but enthusiastic crowd for you tonight.
That's okay.
Like I
My
said, we never
pleasure.
quite know with these meetings. Sometimes we have 20 people, sometimes we have five, and tonight looks like more it's one of the five crowds. But um,
That's
that's okay.
okay.
I We started a little bit late because we were having some tech issues, so I was just going to jump through a few announcements and things that have been going on, and
Sure.
then we were going to get to talking to you. If you don't mind sitting tight for a couple minutes, or if you want to go
Yeah, sure.
grab a
Yeah.
drink or something, come back in a couple minutes, that works too.
No problem at all.
Okay. Well, we all know each other well, those who are on the call, but why don't we introduce ourselves so that you can or if you're going to jet too, then we can do
Oh,
that when you
no,
come
no, no.
back.
It's okay. I'll hang out if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
so obviously you know me. We talked last year at the film festival. My name is Kurt
Yeah.
Lidke. I'm a filmmaker. I'm the videographer for Klamath Community College and the board chair for KCC. I'm also a commercial drone pilot, both aerial and underwater. I've worked on documentaries, music videos, worked in the music industry in LA and Hollywood for many years, as well as on video games. That's me. Joyce, why don't you introduce yourself? Oh, Joyce, you are muted. Muted, Joyce.
You're still muted, Joyce. So in that same black bar area, right by the video camera thing, you can
Got
also.
it.
Okay,
There you
How's
are.
that?
Much
Okay.
better.
we got you.
Name is Joyce Dickens. I'm an independent photographer here in Klamath Falls for 3 years now, as of yesterday. Um, I do commission work as well as sell my art at Klamath Art Association. I'm also the secretary for Klamath Film, and happy to meet you. Shelley.
And Lori, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, Shelley. I'm Lori. I've been a Klamath Film member for about 5 years now. I was on the Klamath board for a while, as well as helped volunteered with different events. I've done some backstage stuff at the Ross Raglan with Follow Spot, so spotlighting. And recently I submitted 2 short films to KIP this year, so we'll see if either of them get in.
Cool. Cool.
Fantastic. Bowen.
Hello, Shelley. My name is Bowen Browder. I have been a Klamath Film member for a couple of years now, but I am also currently a board member for Klamath Film myself. I am a local to Klamath Falls. I've been here my whole life. I currently work as an admissions counselor for the local college here, Oregon Tech. But in my off time, I would probably what you could consider an aspiring actor. So very happy to speak with you. Very happy to have you here, and then really looking forward to learning as much as I can.
Oh,
Owen actually just wrapped your first film, right?
Yes, I did. I actually just finished production on my very first short film production project ever, and that was a lot of fun. So
terrific.
it was a film produced by Nick Alexander Films, which is a smaller local-based studio here, and the film is called Duplicity. It's a campy-ish murder mystery type thing with a bit of a plot with multiple characters, sort of a Clue type thing, and it's kind of a whodunit until the very end. And it had a lot of campy moments, so it was a lot of fun.
Neat, neat.
And then John, there's also a mic up here too.
Okay, well, I probably share with you. I'm just John Sked's dad. I think I've been a member about a year now. I'm more in the music side of life, but I've got some ideas for a film. I'm kind of on more of the cyberpunk, too much influence of Matrix and other films like that, Blade Runner. And of course, I like music in that genre. So I got some ideas, but right now I'm still trying to deal with my mom's estate. She passed in December, and I'm trying to clean out the house and get everything settled. So I can't really work on the film until that's all over. So trying to get there, but it's a journey. I imagine you've run into obstacles trying to get things done in your life. Perhaps you can maybe commiserate,
Yeah,
sympathize.
just like every day.
Savia, could you turn the volume just
But,
a touch in the back there? Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be great to hear what kind of stuff you're into at this point when we get to you here.
Sure, sure.
Thank you, those of you who are able to make it. You know, our collective here, Shelley, is filmmakers, actors, directors, crew, and film fans, and a lot of them must be sheltering right now from our first major, thunderstorm coming through the area. But we appreciate you being here. Thank you very, very, very
Hey,
much.
my pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
Well,
Really
let me run through just a quick rundown of what we've been up to lately, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk to you, get to hear about your career and any advice that you may have for folks who are working on projects. Also, way in the back there, that's Savia. Hi, Savia. She works here at the record store where we hold our meetings, and we have another guest up in the corner there. So anyway, super busy May for us. It's we at KCC held our first Comic-Con, and tied in with that, we did a screening of the film Frank and Zed, which was supposed to be in our 2020 Independent Film Festival. And through odd circumstances, we never actually showed it, even though it won our award for Best Feature. So we finally got to show it May 14th over at Oregon Tech. That was tons of fun. There's the filmmaker, Jesse Blanchard, shaking hands.
neat.
And it's an all puppet film shot in Portland over 7 years. Think of like if you combined Young Frankenstein with the Dark Crystal, you'd get a sense of what the film is like. Crazy, zany, and it's barely been shown anywhere. So it was really great to have Jesse come down and be a part of the Comic-Con as a speaker, and then the following night getting to show his film. Klamath Film hosted the monthly Awake at 8 event through the Chamber of Commerce late last month. So over at Gaucho Collective, we welcomed in local business leaders to network and talk about all the work that Klamath Film gets to do around the community. We also had a Memorial Day screening last Sunday. We showed Francis Ford Coppola's Gardens of Stone at the Ross Raglan Theater. And this is a photo of our guest panel comprised of different local veterans and veterans groups in town talking about veterans issues. So that was fantastic to get that experience on Memorial Day weekend. We have now closed our window for film submissions for the Klamath Independent Film Festival. So now our judges are hard at work to go through everything, score everything, and September 16th through the 18th will be this year's film festival. So I see a couple other people joining us. Thank you very, very much for being here. Sit tight. We'll get a chance to talk to you, but we're going through a quick rundown of some of the things we've been up to lately here with Klamath Film. We are teaching our annual film camp again. This will be the third year that we do it for middle school and high school kids. Absolutely free for the kids through grants and scholarships that we get. And this year's will be at KCC, July 11th through the 15th. So if you know of a kiddo going to middle school or high school here in the Klamath Basin that has an interest in learning cinematography, script writing, editing, acting, whether they aspire to be a professional filmmaker or they just want to make their Instagram and TikTok look cool. That is let's see who's sharing screen right now. Oh, okay. No, not cool. I'm going to disconnect you from the meeting if you do that. Okay. I want to be cool, but that's not cool. Okay.
It's showing an advertisement when they connect.
No, they were trying to rickroll us.
Oh,
So sorry, Danielle, you're being removed. That's an example of Zoom bombing. Someone who comes in and tries to mess with meetings. Jim,
So that's what they're called.
yeah. So that's someone just
okay.
trying to screw with a meeting just because they can. They're a low life who has nothing better to do. Jim, I see your hand is raised.
Hi. Yeah. I'm just gonna ask. Can you turn your volume up? I can't really hear you. And I'm.
Oh, okay. Check. Is that better?
Yeah. That's all right. Thank you.
Okay, good. So our film camp will be July 11th through the 15th. So if you know of any middle school or high school kids in the area that are interested in learning cinematography, it's a week-long crash course. At the end of it, we loan out film equipment and they get to go off and make their very first film. And then we reconvene at the end of August to do a public showcase of student films. One of them gets automatically entered into the Klamath and Pennant Film Festival. So
Cheers.
okay,
No, that was a bit loud.
yep. It's all good. No, it's okay. We also were just because Klamath Film is also the film liaison office for Klamath County. We just had a director and producer in town that were location scouting. So they're planning to hopefully shoot their next feature film here in August. And I will have more details about that soon, but this is
Good.
some of the shots of us doing location scouting around town. And since they have a marker on the historic film trail for the film they shot here in 2018, Phoenix, Oregon, it was their first time back since that has been dedicated. So they wanted to go check out their marker on the film trail. For those who don't know, the film trail is the state of Oregon is the only state that does this, but they put up historic markers all over the state for historically relevant films that have been shot all over the state. And they promote this as tourism stops, as film tourism. So there's markers for National Lampoon's Animal House and The Goonies and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Stand By Me. And the very last one on the trail is us here in Klamath Falls, Phoenix, Oregon. Even though the film was only shot in 2018, it ended up being the #1 movie in America because it was released the week that every theater in the country was shut down in 2020. And because they did a streaming release of it, it was the only film in the country that registered box office. So it goes down in history as the lowest grossing #1 film in history. And we got the little independent film shot in Klamath as the #1 movie in America. So they got a historic marker for that.
yay.
Neat.
So with that, I see Jim and Liam, you decide to join us as well. Would you two please introduce yourselves? Jim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm just like interested in all the directory things. I'm just new to the business and I just want to learn more about what's going on, where to go, stuff like that. You get me?
Yeah. Are you wanting to be an actor or a filmmaker or a crew member? Or what?
I have been wanting to be an actor for a while now. I've been to various drama groups, but I'm still a bit iffy about it.
Okay. Well, our guest tonight that we'll get to momentarily, Shelley Lipkin, has been an actor for over 40 years. So great person to talk to about it as to whether or not you want to either inspire you or to get you to stay the hell away from getting involved in the entertainment industry. Anyone who's been in it as long as Shelley has, I'm sure has a few horror stories here and there. So
Just a few.
and then Liam. Hello, Liam. Why don't you introduce yourself? Hello, Liam. Liam Curdinghead, or if not, we'll come back to you.
I think his mic might be broken. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Even if we can't get audio from you, Liam, we appreciate it. I wanted to briefly show a demo reel of some of Shelley's work. Shelley here has been, we got audio. Liam, hello, are you there?
Hello, how are you?
Hi, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Well, I'm Liam. I'm just interested in acting really, and I just want to know more.
Okay. Are you interested in being an actor or a filmmaker or being in a film crew or just kind of a film fan?
It's more of a film crew because my dad's good friends with a cameraman, and I do focus pulling for him sometimes. So I would be interested in being a cameraman one day, maybe.
Well, happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So for our new folks, this is Klamath Film. We are a 501c3 nonprofit based in Klamath Falls, Oregon. We've been around for about 12 years. We are the film liaison office for the county. So we help out anytime a film wants to come to our area. We do research, location scouting, provide local cast and crew calls, equipment, anything that we can do to assist with productions. We also coordinate the annual Klamath Independent Film Festival. We do an annual summer camp for youth, teaching them cinematography and filmmaking basics, and we do special screenings throughout the year. So thank you, Jim and Liam, for joining us for the first time. We appreciate you being here. With that, I wanted to show, and I hope the sound comes through for the folks on the Zoom call. If not, we'll for sure hear it in here. Our guest tonight, Shelley Lipkin, longtime Hollywood actor. We have a short demo reel of some of his work in various films and TV shows.
Scientists found images and video on the camera, but could they really be from the future? What you are about to see is actual video from John Doe's camera.
A particular case, a problematic client, anything?
Not that I remember it. Not everyone likes lawyers.
Well, we'll need to look through all of Serena's casework just to be certain.
Full access. Whatever you need. Messenger everything over. You just find the animal who did this. You got no evidence. You got no proof.
See this guy? I know he's guilty, but I can't prove it. Gotcha. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
You shot me! Right here in this very room, the National Security Agency interrogates a mysterious man who witnesses at Union Station say appeared out of thin air. The habitat was designed to sustain one person. Two would put a strain on the resources. I can't imagine how long you would last with a third. Try and understand. Think about it. There are other things to consider. What if the baby were born crippled, mentally ill, or disadvantaged in some way? How would that play out? And why would you want to bring a new life into such a harsh world?
It comes from the state. Comes to me, then to you, and it's out of my hands, okay?
Well, at least you could try to do something about it. You're certainly quick to bend over and take it. What's happened to you anyway? I've been here over 3 decades teaching. And just like that, we have to abide by this impersonal daily curriculum crap just so the state can save a few bucks. And it's 2 weeks before the end of the school year. It's outrageous.
This is a state-mandated public school curriculum.
The state doesn't know shit about education.
Dr. Jarot, come. It's a pleasure. I am Anondu Buhari, Botswana Special Envoy. I work for President Kama. He's most impressed when he read your paper you wrote as a student. How do you say your
The president of Botswana read my grad school thesis?
Yes, all 600 glorious pages, from which insight drips like honey upon which bees of wisdom feast. The president is rebuilding the educational system from the ground up. Would you consider going to Botswana to meet him? All expenses paid, of course.
Yes. The last chapter in the story of John Doe has yet to be written. Many questions remain, but one truth is known. A new dimension exists, and it's found in Panasonic.
Terrific. Shelley, that's quite a mustache. How long did it take you to grow that?
They pulled it out.
Okay.
It was the silliest idea in the world, and there was no rationale for it at all. I kept on asking why all the different mustaches and beards, and they said, "Oh, we really don't know. We're just kind of playing with the idea." So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Good group.
So let's get some background on you, get a better understanding of how you got into acting. And I know your IMDb page goes all the way back to 1980 with Laverne and Shirley. So how did you get into acting, and tell us about some of the projects you've gotten to work on?
Well, let's see. I started acting in 1970 in college. I went to a small junior college in Marin County, California, and fell in love with theater, did tons of it, went to a conservatory in San Diego for acting, but then I got hired to do repertory theater. And you okay there?
Yeah, sorry, we keep getting some Zoom bombers. We've never had this happen before, but for some reason we keep having people chime in
I've never
wanting to
had those
disrupt things.
before.
Yeah, it's a first for us. So I'm try to ignore them, and I'm working through blocking people.
It's okay. So I was lucky enough to get hired into some repertory theaters, and I ended up at Berkeley Rep, and spent 3 years there. And from 75 to 78, and then I moved to LA. And I spent 20 years there, doing just about everything you could do as an actor. Film, sitcoms, movie of the week, tons of commercials, and I never really liked LA. So my wife and I and our 10-year-old sold our house and moved to Portland in 98, and I thought my career as an actor would be over, and I'm going. And I was fortunate enough to get a lot of work up here, and started screenwriting a lot and teaching more, and that's pretty much what I do now, mostly. I still act occasionally. I teach at the Actors Conservatory of Portland, Mountaineer Community College. I was teaching at the Art Institute of Portland in their film division, and I teach screenwriting and acting and directing, and I continue to do that. So.
Sorry, Liam, I'm gonna have to remove you because you keep interrupting.
Okay. So so that's
Sorry,
pretty
Shelley.
much what I do, and then I've been fortunate that lately a lot of my screenplays have gotten some traction, and one of them was a semifinalist in the Nichols Fellowship, was a big deal, and so it got picked up by a producer that I knew in LA, who shopped it to a director in Australia who signed on, and Anonymous Content, which is a management production company in LA, who is going to now start shopping it to stars.
Okay.
And then my writing partner in LA and I were hired to write a TV series based on a young Indian girl influencer. And so we finished that, and they're shopping that around now. And I'm writing another TV series, which I took from a film screenplay I wrote, and we turned it into a TV series and finishing that up. So that's pretty much what's going on for me,
Okay.
and I still do a lot of teaching.
Well, and there's a lot of projects that you would definitely fall into the category of actors that I think of, and I say this lovingly, of, hey, aren't you that guy who was in that thing? Where you've been in so many different things, but people may not know the name, but when you walk into some places, I'm sure there's a double take, like, I swear I know you from something, don't I?
Yeah, that happens a lot. And again, after you do like 20 years in LA, you're gonna build some credits, and it you become what's called a working actor. Yeah, the guy that people go, you're yeah.
So,
Um,
so some of the credits include LA Law, the TV show Grimm. You're in a film that I love, and I know it's kind of an indie film, not a lot of people have seen, but I know it's a smaller part, but Music Within. I'm a huge fan of the film Music Within.
Oh yeah, it was a
with
great film.
Ron Livingston and um, Michael Sheen and a few others. I know that was shot in the Portland area, so it makes sense that you were associated with it. But
Right.
I absolutely adore that film. So I was it's great that you were.
Yeah, it's a wonderful one. That film and Mean Creek. Mean Creek was again a Nickel Fellowship winner, and the guy that wrote it and directed it, uh, that was, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. It was a terrific project, and I had a small role in that, but I'd say is quality wise, that one and Music Within were two projects that I think I'm most proud of.
I would highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen it. It's based on a true story about two individuals. One is a Vietnam veteran who loses almost all of his hearing in the war, and he meets someone who has severe disabilities, and they work together to create the American Disabilities Act. And it's the struggles that they go through to have the American Disabilities Act come into law.
Yeah, true story. Yeah.
Very well done film. Very emotional. Has some funny parts to it too. So it's not all just a bummer, but it's very high on my recommendation list, and it's something that not a lot of people have seen. So if you want to get a sense of Shelley and a really great made in Oregon film, check out Music Within. So Shelley, what made you decide that you wanted to become an actor and go through the hell of moving to Hollywood and trying to make a name for yourself?
Well, I didn't really want to be an actor. I wanted to be either a poet or a psychologist. Weird combination of those things. And I went to this small college, and my girlfriend one day walked by an audition notice and said, I'm going to audition for that. Why don't you? And I auditioned, and it was Midsummer Night's Dream. And I got in, I got to play flute, and it was a terrific experience. And I got addicted. I got my first laugh, and that was all she wrote. And I just did show after show. Luckily, College Marin at that point was this kind of golden age with all these actors. I'll mention one person that everyone knows, Robin Williams, who went to school with me, and we became best buddies, did tons of shows together. And so it was an incredible experience. We got to go to Edinburgh, Scotland, and took a Western version of Taming the Shrew there, did a command performance for Princess Margaret and the royal family, and it was exhilarating doing that. Yeah, so that's how I got into it.
That's incredible. Now, as someone who I was in Hollywood for about 12 years before I moved to Southern Oregon. I sometimes get people like this person sitting right behind me asking, hey, should I move to LA and try to be an actor? And I say, that's the worst thing you could possibly do. The harsh realities of it, my favorite saying is that the streets of Los Angeles are paved with the crushed dreams of the young and naive. I'm not sure how you feel about the whole Hollywood experience. And if people ask you, hey, I want to be an actor, should I move to LA and try it? What do you usually respond with?
Okay, well, it's a question that I'm asked tons of times by all my students. And I always tell them that that is a lifelong question, because it's not something you just decide, you go there and you do it, and that's it. You're constantly revisiting that decision every second you're down there, because it's grueling. It really is. And the one thing that is, I think, every actor has is this wonderful vulnerability and thin skin that will make them emotionally available. And that's what you want in an actor. But the business demands a thick skin and a ruthlessness and a toughness to withstand constant rejection, day in and day out. And it never ends. So if you want to do it, you have to kind of assess for yourself, can I withstand that pressure and that pain and that rejection? Because it's a numbers game. The more you do it, the better shot you get of getting work. I'd say the percentage of actors that actually succeed in this is maybe about 5%. If that. And there are 160,000 actors at any given time in LA. And they're all good, because they wouldn't be down there and struggling without tons and tons of classes and workshops and the tenacity to keep going. And it weeds the people that don't have that tenacity and that thick skin out quickly. So it's a decision you have to make based on other things too. Do you like hot weather? Can you withstand traffic? Are you willing to spend 4 or 5 hours in a car driving to auditions that you'll never get? Can you afford it? It's a frigging expensive town. And nowadays, even more so. With gas the way it is, I can't imagine what LA's like now. Thank God for self-tape auditions, because it saved actors. But those are all the questions you constantly ask yourself. And I think every actor is different. And I would never, ever say to any actor, don't do it. If it's in your heart and your soul, you want to go for it, then God damn it, do it. But
Dangerous
just know.
Tell me.
Huh?
Dangerous things to tell me, but I'm listening.
Yeah, no, you should. You should just know what you're getting yourself into. It's a networking game too. Talent is this much. It depends on so many variables, and they're endless. And I think every actor, if they ever could do it, should sit in on a callback at a casting director's office for a film or TV show.
What does
because
that mean? What is
it means
a callback?
Listen, a callback? Okay. The way it works is you initially get a call, if you have an agent, from your agent, and they give you a time for a call, send your sides to you via one of the websites like Actors Access or Casting Frontier, Casting Network, any one of those. You get your sides, you work on it, and you do your preliminary audition. They used to be live. Now a lot of them are self-tape. You tape it yourself at home, send it in. That's a whole other ball game we can get into in a sec. But once that's done, they make a decision. Who are they going to weed out from the 20, 30, 50, 100 actors up for the 5 lines in a page, 1 minute scene? And based on that callback, that could be live. Then you have to go there. And in the callback, the way the callback goes is they have you do the same thing you did just to see if you could do it again.
See if you have consistency.
Consistency. And then the director, who is usually there, will throw a direction at you just to see, can you take a direction? It could have nothing to do with the scene, and frequently doesn't. They just want to see how facile you are, picking up the direction and on the fly making it your own.
And then by a direction would be like giving the actor a prompt, something to act off of.
An idea, something that they'll throw at you, that you could then change your interpretation of it.
Just to see
And
how you approach it.
how you approach it, right? And it could be something as simple as make him angrier, or don't take so much time, speed it, double time it, or just think that he walks in and he hates the guy that he's talking to from the second he walks in, or something general like that. Unfortunately, in film, a lot of directors aren't good with actors. They may be good with a camera. They may be good with framing a shot. They may be good at planning things, logistics. But as far as communicating with actors, that's usually the bottom of their priority. And so it's done through casting. They walk into a casting session and go, please show me how it's done. I want to know how this role should be done. And when I see it, that's what I want on the set. So I don't have to direct.
Yeah, instead of having to mold the actor into there, they're just looking for ones who's got it and is closest to what they envision.
They have no time at all on a set. There are too many moving parts, and their attention span is all over the place. And unfortunately, and that goes for a low budget film, a big budget film, doesn't make any difference. And the chances of you actually getting a direction that's worthwhile are slim. I was working on a film, Extraordinary Measures, with Harrison Ford, and my scene was with, and I walked in, and I was looking around for the director. No director. Harrison Ford was there talking to me about the scene, and he says, "Okay, well, let's go. Let's get one down." And I hear camera up, roll him, speed, all, and I'm waiting for the director to call action. Way in the shadows, I hear, "And action." But there is a director. And we did the scene, and then they set up again, and he had never come up and introduced himself, never said a word to me at all. And when we were finally done, he said, "That's a wrap, great," walked up to me and said, "Great job, thanks," and walked away. That was it. And mainly it was because Harrison Ford was producer on the film and pretty much took over everything. He was even telling the boom guy how to hold the boom and where to place it during the scene. So yeah, you don't get much direction there. So they get it all in the audition.
Did anybody convey that to you so that you knew that was basically Harrison Ford's thing? That would have been nice, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a lot of things would be nice that they don't do. You're pretty much your prep work and your interpretation of the character is done way before the audition. And you walk in, and the best advice I can give any actor is what they want to see is you having complete confidence in the choice you made, which could be completely wrong for that role. But the confidence you bring to it and your knowledge that this is the way it should be done, you're showing them how to shoot that scene. And then they make a choice on, yes, we like that, or no, I'm going to give you a quick direction, see what else you could do with it. If you could do that, and I like you a lot, you're hired. And if you're not hired, if you come in with that confidence, they're going to remember you because they see a good actor. You may not get the role. Frequently you won't, but at least they see good work. That's the important thing.
I was never an actor when I was in Hollywood. I was mainly working in the music industry, but I knew because you can't be in LA, throw a rock and not hit a musician, an actor, a writer kind of,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
it ricochets off them, hits a makeup costume person, and they're also
Right,
either
right,
they're
right.
pumping gas or serving food, but really
Yeah.
deep down they're an actor, musician, and everything else. But man, I knew so many people that were just looking even for that first role. It was audition after audition after audition just to
Yeah.
get that shot. I had some friends that even went on some of those reality TV show like acting or like dating shows, just in the hopes that maybe a director was watching the dating show, and that's the whole reason
Yeah.
why they would
Yeah.
go on that, just any way possible to get some screen time for their demo reel.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you do anything and everything when you're starting out just to build that up. Yeah.
I got asked actually earlier today by someone who was in the film that Bowen was in that just finished wrapping. Um, they asked me, when should I try to get my SAG card? And we've had the president of SAG Indy join us in previous meetings to talk about this. But as someone who's been in the industry for a long time, and who has a lot of students, this is to me a really interesting question, because once you're in SAG, that's it. You can't do any non-SAG projects. So at what point do you tell people, you know what, you're at a point now where you should join SAG, or do you tell stay away from that as long as you can?
Yeah, essentially the answer that guest had was that basically you want to wait until SAG is basically demanding you to join. And that's when you have enough of a filmography or a demo reel thing, that you have enough experience that they've seen you on those projects, and they or at least you've built up that resume to an extent, and then they're just like, okay, we need to add you to SAG.
What do you think, Shelley?
Yeah. Well, you've got number one, the industry has changed a lot over the last 20, 30 years. It used to be when I moved to LA, you joined SAG. That was it. I was in an equity actor, actors equity for stage, which allowed me to buy into AFTRA and SAG, and which I did immediately because I wanted work. And everything was SAG in LA. The industry, unfortunately, has changed, so there's a lot of non-union work. And I tell every actor, hold off. Don't join SAG until, and you're absolutely right, you are forced to do it. There's not enough work for that, especially in a regional area like Oregon. The amount of indie productions that are non-union proliferate the industry up here, and that's even changing in LA. There's tons of non-union stuff down there, especially commercials. So I say hold off. There's the Taft-Hartley rule that if you know, you have to do, I think, 2 SAG productions, and then they say it's a must join. Even then, you could hold off. So you wait until they put a gun to your head, and then you join, because I think it's like $3,000 to join. And look, here's why you're joining SAG. Ideally, when I was in LA, is because it guaranteed you would get your residuals. It guaranteed the set was safer. That it guaranteed that you get overtime. It guaranteed that eventually you would get, if you made enough money, health insurance and a pension. Today, if you wanted health insurance, you have to make over $30,000 a year as an actor. No one in Oregon, or not no one, but I'd say maybe 1% of the actors up here make more than $30,000 as actors in SAG. So you're not going to get health insurance. You're not going to get a pension unless you go to LA and you bust your buns and get a lot of work, and it builds up. So the reason you're joining SAG is not to get work, because no one cares. You can get a union production being non-union. They don't care if you're SAG or not. It doesn't make any difference. So hold off. It's nice to have the SAG card, but it makes no sense up here.
So then ideally it would be something where if an actor were to hypothetically like build up a resume or a more acting experience, and when they felt they were prepared enough and made that pilgrimage to either LA or even places like New York,
Yeah.
or other like acting hotspots, that's when they'd want to try to make that transition and see, like, gear themselves up and be ready for having that gun put to their head and actually, hey, join SAG. So you join SAG then.
Yeah, it's a personal choice on that. I mean, look, there are SAG actors that work non-union jobs. It's unfortunate, but they're forced to. And I don't think it's a good idea. SAG has given some dispensation to local low budget jobs up here. So you have a modified low budget, ultra low budget. Ultra low budget, you're making about 150 a week. So, you're not getting anything out of it, of being SAG. So it's just to give dispensation to the production entities so they can get the stuff done and say they're a SAG production.
And it's not just specifically actors too. Last year, I worked on a short film shot here in Klamath as a commercial drone pilot, and I got paid in leftover fried chicken from craft services. I got to take home what was left over from craft services. That was how I got paid on the production. So
yeah. I mean, when I was living in LA, you had a day rate. So as you started working, you started out SAG minimum, and then your agent would negotiate. So you get a little higher rate every time you did it. The industry started changing just before I moved up here, and everything went to SAG minimum. So basically, if you were doing a guest star, small role, walk-on, co-star, featured, they just said, you just expected it was going to be SAG minimum. That's it, period. You're never going to make more money unless you start moving up in the echelon and you become a guest star, recurring, something like that.
You build your brand and raise your name.
Yeah, right.
How much is SAG minimum now?
It's now about like $950, close to $1,000 a day.
A day. Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely worth it. I mean, if you work, you make good money. But then an odd thing has happened in the industry too, and you probably noticed this. There's a thing called local hire now, which is a horrific, terrible, rotten, stinking thing that's happened. Because, well, here's a good example. There was a TV series, Z Nation, that was shooting up in Spokane. And this is like 10, 12 years ago, whatever. And I read for one of the leads before it went to production. And it was down to me and one other person. And they said, we want you to come up and read for us in Spokane. And I thought, okay, where's my plane ticket? They said, oh, no, it's local hire. You fly yourself up. And I said, wait a minute. So if I get the lead on it, what's the contract? And I asked my agent to get that information. And the contract basically was SAG minimum, about $3,500 a week, I think. And you pay your own flight, you pay your own room and board, your own meals, no per diem, that's it. Well, after agent commission, taxes, and living expenses, basically you owe money. So local hire has proliferated the industry now. So places like Portland, yeah, you could, get work as an LA actor, but in Portland, but they'll say it's local hire. So that means you have to fly yourself up here. You have to find room and board, pay for everything yourself. And yeah, you get paid the day rate, but there's a big chunk taken out of it.
And you're either lucky enough to live or be close by to that region that they are doing local
If you
hire,
could.
or you're just screwed.
Yeah. It kind of makes a little more sense if you like worked in Seattle, you could drive up there. But LA to Portland, come on. Yeah.
Joyce and Lori, do you two have a question for Shelley? I want to make sure you're part of the conversation too.
I have a question. So Shelley, you mentioned during auditions to be confident on your interpretation of the role and just go for it. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have a funny or a regretful experience where you went confident and it was completely wrong, or later on you're just like, I shouldn't have done that. Do you have any story that sort of along those lines?
Horror
Uh,
stories. Let's hear all of the PTSD, Shelley, that you've gotten from auditions.
yeah, right. Well, there were probably tons of them. I blocked them all out, but there was one in particular. And I got an audition, and it was at, I think, with CBS or something. And they gave me the scene. I looked over it, and it looked like a funny scene. So I went in and I read for the casting director. And when I was done reading, she looked up and said, "This isn't a comedy." I said, "Oh, well, what is it?" She says, "It's a soap opera." I don't know anything about soap operas. I personally hate soap operas. And so I never watched them. I knew a couple of names. This was an obscure one at the time. I don't know. So I went and read, and basically played it like a comedy, but it was dead serious. You know, things like, "John, are you leaving me?"
That's
"No, I'm not. I have amnesia from banging my head, but I still love you." You know, that kind of crap. And I thought, this is stupid.
that's exactly how I can imagine it, of just hamming everything up and making it the most over dramatic delivery as possible, and just making that every word is just delivered with such like angst, pretty much. And it's just
Well, it took me a long time to adjust to film acting too, because I was a stage actor, and I thought, you got to show everyone everything. You got to push it. You got to, don't trust that they're going to get it. Show them more. And in film and TV, you don't do that. You're there. It's you.
More
They want
deadpan.
you just like you are, like the person sitting a foot away from you, and you're just talking to them.
Lori, did that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up?
No, that was great. I appreciate that answer. And I totally think that should be a thing of taking a soap drama or taking them and then making them into comedies. I think that could be a new genre.
Well, you've seen the movie Soap Dish, haven't you? It's great.
Oh yeah.
With Kevin Kline, and yeah, brilliant film.
Joyce, oh, sorry.
Yes.
Joyce, did you have a question too?
No, but I would like to say it was nice to meet Shelley, and he has given us a lot of very good insight on what the actors go through working up to success. And my heart goes out to Bowen. I wish you all the very best, my friend, because I know your heart's in it and you want to be there and do that. And I think you can learn a lot from Shelley. Maybe you should become one of his students.
Shelley, since you've done a lot of TV and a lot of film, is there a difference in the acting approach for working on a TV set versus a film set?
Well, I think that the major difference is if you're doing sitcom, there's a major difference. And because of course, I'm talking about 3-camera sitcom. Because that's pretty much like doing a play.
you have to make room for the laugh tracks.
Well, it's in front of a live audience, number one.
Right. Yeah.
And they rehearse it like a play. So you get together on day one, you sit around a table, you do a read through, which they never do in film. And then all the directors and writers and producers are there. And then you walk on the set and you start rehearsing it. And an hour later, they give you your first changes, different colored pages. which you adjust. Then about 2 or 3 hours later, they bring you your next set of changes. And by the end of your second day, you've got a rainbow of a script with characters that have come and gone, actors that were fired, lines that, you had 5 pages of dialogue, now it's down to 1, that kind of stuff. And then when you finally rehearse it, it's done in sequence, just like a play. So you actually get the whole story laid out in continuity the way it would be done. And in front of a live audience, so you need to hold for a laugh, you hold for a laugh. And so it feels like that. And of course, that doesn't exist in single camera or multicam film. There's no laugh track. There's nothing there, and you're just you alone, and you've got to adjust everything you're doing, especially in comedy, without any response. So you have no idea if it's funny. Other than that, the process of film acting is can you repeat it 15, 20 times in a row and make it fresh every time? Everything is distracting on a set. Nothing seems real. Half the time you're not playing to what you think you imagined you would be playing to. You don't meet the other actors until sometimes 5 minutes before you do the shot. I met Harrison Ford literally 5 minutes before we started filming. So all of that stuff is very different than doing in theater, definitely, but doing sitcom, same thing.
Well,
And
then
modern sitcoms are single camera now; they're shot like a film.
and most films are shot out of sequence too, as opposed to
Totally.
sitcoms. Yeah.
Yeah, which is tough
I
for an
experienced-
actor. Yeah,
I experienced that firsthand.
yeah, right. Because
The first time,
you
it was
could
very
be.
interesting.
Yeah, you're over at the craft service table, having a cappuccino or something, after spending 4 hours waiting for them to finally get to you, even though you showed up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and
Yes.
then you walk on the set at like noon or 1, after you've in and out of costume and had your makeup redone because you had lunch and all the rest of that stuff, and then you finally fell asleep in your dressing room, and that's when they come banging on the door saying, "Oh, we were looking for you. Come on, you're on set," and you're half asleep, bored out of your mind. You've run your line 1 billion times, and you walk on the set, and they say, "Camera, action. Here we go." Where are you at that moment?
So you would say it's quite the actual rarity that you'd be able to, unless you're working for like big projects where like the director has specifically asked for you or it's something that they want to collaborate on. You usually don't get the chance to like develop those relationships with them.
Correct.
Wow.
You never do.
Okay.
Unless, well, if it's a low budget film and everyone knows each other, that's great. An indie small project, it's wonderful. But if it's a TV series or a major motion picture, you won't even meet anyone. The person that you interact with the most is a PA that meets you when you walk on the set. You just look for the person with the headset walking around looking frantically, and that's the PA. And then you ask, where's the AD? So you could sign your contracts. And but you meet no one else.
Would it be advantageous to try to make an effort to do that? Or is it just with the speed and the way that everything moves and everyone's so busy, it's pretty much an impossibility?
No, you could, you'll meet them when you walk on. You could shake hands, say, "Hi, I'm so and so," but as far as networking and trying to sell yourself, forget it. You don't do it on a set.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I didn't spend, a ton of time on film sets when I was in Hollywood, but I did spend enough time to get kind of a sense of the culture on sets. My perception, and maybe you can validate this or say I'm way off, is that even though, especially on like a big film, the lead actors and maybe the director, sometimes depending on who they are, maybe the ones going on the late night talk show hosts, and they're the ones on the marquee that are going to sell the film. But anytime that anyone's on a set, everyone knows that the real rock stars are the grips, costume, and makeup people, because they're the first ones on set at like 3, 4 in the
Yeah.
morning. And they're the very last ones to leave day in,
Right.
day in, day out. So they draw the biggest respect because absolutely nothing happens without them. Has that been your experience too?
Oh yeah, and they're usually wonderful people. All of them. I mean, crew are the people you interact with the most, because they're the people hanging around the outskirts, adjusting the lights, putting costumes on you. You sit in the makeup chair the most, talking to the makeup people, and they're always friendly, wonderful people, or they wouldn't be working. It's a networking game. There is no room for assholes on a set. And even though there are, and there's some people that have attitude, I think there's only been one production I ever did that they showed it, and no one liked working with them. And it was the sitcom Webster with Susan Clark and Alex Karras, and they hated doing the show. They didn't like the fact that the little kid got all the attention, and it was a really disgusting experience. But that's, I think, the only time that's ever happened.
Egos are definitely a thing in Hollywood. So
Yeah.
it's something you have to deal with.
Yeah.
John, did you have a question? I know you haven't had a chance to chime in very much. So
Well, it just reminds me, I was watching YouTube about the audition for like Married with Children, and you got the guy for Al Bundy. What's his name?
Ed O'Neill.
Yeah, Ed O'Neill, and how it was his portrayal that they, because it was something, like the other ones were not doing. Because a lot of people are coming in doing like the honeymooner
Well,
take or
yeah,
other type of
I think I know what
takes.
you're talking about. Every actor was
Yeah.
coming in like, I'm gonna get you, Peg. Like this is it. Like
Yeah.
you're finally going down. And Ed O'Neill instead was like, oh God,
Yeah, I mean,
family. Oh geez.
yeah,
Like coming home and about to open the door is like the worst experience in the world. And just like the depression part of it was the angle he took, and it made it hilarious. I mean, that granted, that show has
Right.
not aged well,
Oh,
but
well, I
it's
don't know.
still if it's your sense of humor, and it's a landmark show in terms of changing kind of TV culture, um undeniably hilarious, the Al Bundy character.
Well, it's just that how you're talking earlier about your idea of how you portray the part to be. I
Mhm.
mean, if he had just come in like anybody else, I mean, he's the same actor. He just would have portrayed it as everybody else. He wouldn't have got it.
Yeah.
So
And
so I'm just
that
kind of curious
happens.
how much upfront work are these people really putting in to really kind of portray these things the way that they envision it, instead of, and just hoping that the director, I mean, is a lot of people really kind of trying to play to the director? I mean, it feels like the Olympics, you're trying to play to the judges or something. I mean,
Yeah, you
it's
should never do
almost like
that.
you say, a psychology game. You're trying to figure them out so you know how to deliver it the way they want it. I don't know.
Yeah, the mistake actors make is they think directors and producers know what they want,
Right.
and they don't. Because I'll guarantee you, I'm a screenwriter, so I have a vision of what I'm writing and how I want it to be seen. Then I'll do a read with actors, and frequently I'll watch it and I go, so that's how it's done. That's what the scene is, because they brought something to it that I didn't see. That's the actor's job to interpret it. And that's why you're in class or workshops, is to hone those skills so you learn what works for a scene, how to build conflict in, how to build backstory, how to know intention and motivation, how to make active choices that really give you something to do in a scene rather than just what to feel.
Well,
And that's your job.
I'm finding some of those, like I say, I wanted to do this movie. I know cyberpunk, whatever. I mean, sci-fi. and it's like I have concepts that I really want to see, but there's that part of me that's like, well, I don't always know what the minutia of the dialogue's going to be, or this other stuff. So I mean, sometimes I'm like, and I don't know what the best angle to shoot it would be in, and all these other things. So I mean, is there a lot of reliance on other people to kind of help flesh out the scene, the story? Like you're saying, it's like sometimes you have the idea, but their portrayal of it really makes it or breaks it, you know, or hits you. That's what I'm trying to get. Is it the same
Are
for
you
the camera director and the makeup and everybody else?
From a director's perspective, are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, look, everyone has an opinion. Everyone's got an interpretation of it. Ultimately, the director is the one that's going to make all the calls on that. Director's God. That's it. What they say goes on a set. They're the one that hire the actors and makes the decision. And any director will say it all happens in the audition process. So they're looking for actors that have done that work, and so they can rely on them. And of course, any director is going to rely on their crew. Yeah, there are a few directors that can wear all the hats. They're great with camera. They know lighting. But a lot of them just turn to the people that are experienced and say, "How do you see it?"
Yeah, that's
They'll try to relay their vision to them,
right.
but they're going to rely on them to take whatever the director relays and then light it correctly, frame it correctly, move the cameras the way they think it should go, and the actors do the same. It's totally collaborative.
Yeah, because that's the way I'm kind of feeling. It's like I can bring some of the ideas I want to do, but I think I'm going to need a lot of help because I don't know much
Oh
about
no,
a
you
lot of
have
those other things like how to do the camera stuff or the best lighting or angles and stuff. I'm like,
you rely on everyone else. That's why you
all
hire
right, that's
good
good to
people.
know that it is a lot more collaborative.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
also some people fall into filmmaking without going the traditional route of going to a film school. And a good example is Kevin Smith. Okay. So Kevin Smith made a film with his buddies and it became a huge, massive hit as a super low budget film, Clerks. And for years, he got work off of that. Got, his films have earned millions upon millions of dollars in Hollywood. And he was making a film with Bruce Willis. And Kevin didn't know the name of the lenses. And so he starts saying, okay, give me the one with the box. And Bruce starts looking at him like, Kevin, do you mean like that lens? He's like, no, yeah, the thingy one. And it's like, are you serious? You're a director. You've done like 20 films and you don't even know the names of the lenses. Yeah, just give me that one, And so some people kind of fallen into the industry. And I mean, I enjoy his work, but it's a good example of someone who is self-taught and doesn't necessarily have to know. Shelley's saying a director is God on set, but they don't necessarily need to be all knowing,
right? Because I'm
and
thinking
all
like
involving.
Robert in kind of his upcoming, how he came.
Yeah, you're going to rely on your DP and your camera person, your assistant director. You turn to them constantly for help on that. I mean, when I was shooting my film, directing it, I was always looking at my AD saying, what do we got on time? Can I get another shot in? What do you think I can do with this? And I look at my DP and say, what do you think would be the best lens on this? Where do you want to put the camera? I want this. This is what I want it to look like. This is how I see it. And then you'd go, well, no, we can't do that. So let's try this. And, we go back and forth on it. I wanted a shot where I would pull back at the end of that film I directed, pull back, and I wanted that pull back to be like 30 feet. So it would be slowly pulling off on a track. So finally those people would be teeny and on screen. And he said, we don't have enough track. I said, can you double up the track? What can we do to get it pulled back? And he said, no, you can only go 10 feet. So I got 10 feet. That was it.
Lori and Joyce, do you have any follow-up questions for Shelley you want to ask?
Yeah, I'm curious, Shelley. Is there a particular role, like director, screenwriter, actor, that you enjoy more, or does it just depend on the project?
I think lately I enjoy writing more than anything because I could do it by myself. I don't have to rely on anyone else. You have to rely on them to sell it, but as far as writing it goes, it's just me, and I like doing that. I love directing, uh, but uh, directing a film is so all-encompassing and such a, I'm in my 70s now, and that kind of grueling amount of time that you spend is not conducive to being 72 years old. So yeah. So I like writing, and acting is, I've taken a backseat to that. If it happens, it happens, and I've done enough of it.
Right, writing is an interesting perspective to me. I've read a lot of scripts, and I have a good friend of mine is a Hollywood screenwriter who, for 20 plus years, was acting and directing very low budget projects, a lot of like horror things, just trying to get by and struggling. And then somehow, some way, out of the blue, we just had him as our keynote speaker for our Comic-Con a couple of weeks ago. He landed the dream gig. He and his writing partner ended up being the screenwriters for the Sonic the Hedgehog films, which have made now like $800 million. So, everyone thinks they're a flash in the pan, but they're like, holy crap, for 20 years we've been trying to reach this point. Now we have a hit. Now what? So, but when they're working with, someone as big as like Jim Carrey, and there's $100 million budget, what they write in a script isn't necessarily what's going on screen, and they don't necessarily get say in that. So as a screenwriter, sometimes if you're not also directing and being heavily involved in the project, have you seen some of your projects go like, you see the finished project and you're like, where did they come up with that? That wasn't in my story. That wasn't part of it. How did that come out?
Yeah, the unfortunately, if there's a hierarchy totem pole of how much power you have in the in artistic input. At the very top, you got the like Sony corporations and everything, then executive producers, line producers, then director, then actors, editors, then you got the crew, and then underneath the totem pole, buried in the ground, is a screenwriter. Without that, nothing else would exist, but they're gone. I mean, you write the thing, you give it to the production people, they take it and do whatever they want with it. And half the time, if you write it, there's no guarantee your name is even going to be on it. If it's sold to someone else, or it goes into rewrites and they bring other screenwriters in, and that happens. So you just kind of roll with it.
The janitor and craft services folk have more insight into cuts and edits than the writer does.
Oh God!
Hopefully you get paid for it. I mean, if you're giving them the original thought.
Well, you do get paid. I mean, depending on
paid decently for it. I mean, that's a lot of work.
Well, again, it's all negotiable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could get a film thing option for, they could option it for like a few $1,000, or it could be purchased for $1 million. It's all across the board. It's what do the producers, what value do they place on it? And
what's your preference for a package if you're going to sell a screenwrite? What would you want yourself usually?
You mean
for compensation? Would you want a percentage, or does it just depend on the project, what you would want from it?
Oh, I see what you're talking about, like getting points on a film.
Yeah.
No, I'd rather take the flat fee on it, whatever they're going to negotiate.
Know if something's going to actually be a hit or not, and some people have made out.
Can you get it like half and half? Like, I'll take this.
You can negotiate.
Yeah.
You can negotiate anything. It's really your agent that's going to negotiate that.
Like with like with any contract, some people do gamble on taking percentages, hoping that the project is going to do well, and sometimes that comes back to bite you hard, and sometimes that's amazingly lucrative. A great example is Star Wars. George Lucas negotiated, can I have licensing rights for toys back in like 1976? And the studio was just like, yeah, throw away, fine, whatever. It's a low budget B movie anyway. We don't care. And now he's made who knows how many millions of dollars off of Star Wars toys and licensing.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
that one always. I mean, when it comes to Star Wars, it was always like, how come they kept panning this thing? And I finally saw on YouTube there was a thing. It's called "How Star Wars Was Saved in the Edit."
Yes, yeah,
And
the
when
editor.
you see that, and you see that how it could have been, and you're like, wow, it really could have been a bomb. But then it really hit me. It's like, how many other movies are bombs because of the editor?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Well, everything can go wrong in
Yeah.
a film. I mean, if Murphy's rule holds true, it's in film. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong, and it does constantly. I mean, I'm always shocked that anything gets made. Stunning.
I've heard many people, especially when I was in Hollywood, say, and actually I told Brooke this afternoon after the parade. We have also an actress in town who also doubles as a mascot. And so I liaison the mascot, and they were marching in a parade today for high school graduates. And afterwards we were talking, and she was part of the film that Bowen was just wrapped. And she brought up something, and I said, look, on a film set, there's about 100,000 things that can go wrong at any given time in the course of a film production. There's about 5 things that can go right. And if those 5 things go right, congratulations, your movie may actually come out and might actually be successful.
Right.
But there's any number of things that can go wrong that can totally tank a project. James Ivory, the Academy Award winning director, who is actually from Klamath Falls, now in his early 90s, he and I had a conversation a couple of years ago, and we were talking about some of his film projects, and he just started laughing. He's like, there's a reason why credits take 10 minutes at the end of a film. Every single name that's listed is important. And from the first name to the last name, if any one of those people aren't totally bought in on the project, it is destined to fail.
It totally collaborative from day one. I mean, writing a screenplay requires probably 20 to 30 rewrites, no matter what. You start out, you have your first draft done, and you give it to someone, you're going to spend years rewriting it. And we had this one film that was just optioned. It was a completely different film project that we started out on that had the story that we wrote for the one that's currently done, that was optioned and being sold, was a tiny little portion of it. It was only 50% of that script. And we got notes back, and they said, this is really what we like, this story. So we pulled it out and completely rewrote it as a new screenplay, and that's what it is now. And that original screenplay went through 17 rewrites. So now this one has probably gone through 15 rewrites, and my producer just called up yesterday and said, can you rewrite it again, making these changes, because we're pitching it to this actor now, and we want it to fit his age. So there we go.
The reality is that, and a couple of films have shown this. Get Shorty is a great example, but oftentimes what happens behind the scenes is a far more interesting, compelling story than what's actually being filmed. All the different ways of how a film can be financed, how a film crew comes together, how the production happens, how the editing happens, and if it's lucky, gets distribution. Sometimes the stories of how that happens are so much crazier and wild and entertaining than the actual film itself.
Yeah. It's highly unusual for things to go smoothly.
So
they never do. Yeah.
that if there's so much hell involved with writing and with acting and all these difficulties that we've touched on, and sorry that this has been kind of a commiseration thing, Shelley. I wanted it to be positive, but we've been kind of venting.
No, I think it's great. That's what everyone deals with this stuff.
So the question then becomes why? Why subject yourself to all of this pain and torture and misery?
I think the answer is always because you have to, because there's nothing else that makes you feel good. That's it. That's why any art form, I think, it's why you do it, and you know what you're getting yourself into on this stuff. It is a grueling, long haul. To be an actor, a director, a writer, any of those, anyone in the film industry knows that. And if you don't love doing it, if that's not something that is in your heart and soul, you're not going to do it for the money. You're not going to do it for the fame. You're not going to do it for recognition, because you may never get any of those. But what you will get is your own gratification, that you did it and you're happy with it. And if you can't do it for that reason, don't do it.
So what have been some of your highlights looking back? I mean, what were the things that you enjoyed the most, or your favorite things that actually came to fruition?
Well, I think right now the one that I'm working on right now, because the screenplay is called Maury, and it came from another screenplay called Bridges. And we started writing, my wife and I write together. We started writing that in 2012, I think. And it was picked up by our producer a year and a half ago. And it is one of the best experiences of my life. The most incredible thing I ever felt was when we found out we were semifinalists in the Nickel Fellowship, and I danced around the house for an hour, because that's like, you pulled the gold ring on that thing, and we were only semifinalists. We didn't win, but it gave it enough clout that we could go to a producer and they go, wow, this is good. You beat out 8,000 other scripts. So therefore, we'll read it.
Joyce,
and option on that. Yeah.
I since you turned your camera back on, did you have a question that you wanted to follow up with, or no?
I just wanted to say that I'm very impressed with Shelley's passion and how he responded to your question as to why. And to me, the passion puts it all into perspective. You do what you love, no matter what.
Right.
It's there. It's the top of the line. That's what you do because you love it. And then in regard to that same question, Howard, my husband, who is not on screen right now, said, it's better than selling insurance. And there you have it.
That's good.
Do we have other questions for Shelley? Lori, did you have a follow-up, or Owen, or?
I mean, I have approximately 2 million questions I've been waiting to ask. Just wanted to make sure that I guess everybody else could get their time in. I guess I do appreciate Kurt holding me back. Oh wow. Well, at this point, I've learned a whole lot just from listening to you. Although, in particular, just to make sure that I don't go over time and that I don't keep you here too long. I guess in general is, I read on your website, and this just goes more into like the theory in acting, and it's something that really intrigued me. You note or emphasize the importance of not just being able to perform, but being able to react as a character. And that was really intriguing to me because I guess background wise, I'm very committed to being an actor or pursuing that as my, life's career. But I don't have a traditional acting education or background there. I've been a performer of various kinds my whole life, whether that's in like dancing or musicianship or anything there. But it's actually been more recently that I just got into acting. But my education was more on like the social science, technical side. I'm an admissions counselor for the college that is my alma mater, and the degree I received is in communication science. So while I understand like the technical side of things, like what goes into a message, what goes into that transfer of information, how things are different from like nonverbal communication versus things that go across in that verbal interaction. And then ironically, that has helped me a lot of the way in this developing how I can approach to acting. But I know it's not the traditional or even an orthodox way of learning and developing one's skill as an actor. So to read that and see, oh, you need to learn how to react, that was intrigued me. So is there, I'm curious on if you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
Well, the skills that you need as an actor, I mean, I always divide it into kind of two different sections. One is, basically the character, which is, the rationale for why that character is who they are, given circumstances, their backstory, their history, what motivates them, their strengths, their weaknesses. All of those things inform the choices you're going to make for the character and what actions that character does to get what they want, which is critical because you're going to pick up a scene and you're going to figure out in this scene, what is the character actually doing to accomplish what they need. But that's only one half of acting. And the other half is that very simple thing that you're brilliant at and you've been doing your entire life, listening and reacting. And no one tells you how to do it. You don't really think through that. You don't think, how should I laugh at that joke? You just laugh. How should I react when the girl looks at me and smiles that I've just met and I think, God, she likes me? Or how do I react when I was fired? You don't think that, it just happens. And that instantaneous thing that happens to you is honest.
It's a matter of
It's
just
you.
It's intuitive.
It's in the moment. And that's why it's called moment-to-moment acting. And that's what keeps you honest in any scene.
Now, are you really trying to make sure that you're thinking the way the character is, or are you reacting?
You are the character.
Sometimes as you would just you as who you are.
It's not that you are a separate person.
It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid between your imagination and all those things that you determine the character to be in your interpretation, how you read the script, how you see it through your perceptions, and then you use yourself and you whip it together in this wonderful whirlpool of your mind, and you come up with something called the character. But basically, it's filtered through you.
Do you also take into account the genre that you're working within? So like,
oh yeah,
in TV and film, there may be a camera just a foot or two away from your face, or it's zoomed in as a close-in shot on your face, as opposed to if you're acting in a theater, you want to make sure the people in the back row can see your reaction. So like a surprise response or something on stage may be drastically different than a surprise response on a film or TV set, right?
Yeah. It's a very subtle medium, and yeah, a camera can zoom in this tight on you, and it'll pick up every tiny nuance of everything you do, and you just have to trust that it's what you do is enough. By just reacting, it will get it. Sometimes all you have to do is think it. First of all, in film, they're going to cut back and forth, and by cutting to someone else, that actually informs how the audience will interpret what you're doing by just standing there looking and doing nothing. So the other person's going through all this histrionic stuff, like, oh my fucking God, that guy robbed me, he took all my stuff, and the cops look at him going, and you're reading in, as the audience, writing the story in your mind, what that guy is thinking. No one can control that. The audience writes the final story all the time. The director can't figure that out. They could try to interpret it. The actors can try to interpret it. The editor will try to interpret it, but the audience puts it together themselves. And as the actor, you just trust that what you're doing in that moment is good enough. And then leave it up to the editor and director to pick the right take, to edit it the right way, and craft it the way they want it. And you're out of the picture by then anyway. You're gone. It's all post-production.
We've got about 10 minutes left or so, and I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to get their final words in. And of course, we'll give you a chance for any final advice as well, Shelley. So, Bowen, do you have a final question or final thoughts you want to share?
Plenty, but I'll keep it short. I guess just in general, from a final thoughts perspective, it's been more than invaluable listening to you and talking with you. So I'm very, very appreciative. Across the board, I've always had this question or things that I've been thinking about. It just based off of what you said, it sounds like it's absolutely imperative that no matter where you are in an acting career, that you're always wanting to do more workshops, classes, essentially receiving that more direct education. So I guess my smaller miniaturized version that I've cut down from the bigger question I wanted to ask is, would you say that it's generally the actors that are generally more successful in getting roles and landing those roles are the ones that do pursue any form of further education in that matter? Or just within like improving their acting skill through workshops, classes, or even things going to like an acting school or a conservatory?
Well, I think everyone's different. I don't think any actor works the same way. No matter how many places you study, how many different schools of acting that you study, Meisner, Uta Hagen, whatever, you're going to kind of figure it out for yourself, how to take all those tools that they give you and interpret them so they work for you. By staying in class or a workshop, you just get to hone it and play with it. And so much of it is that key word, playing with it, not being afraid, and be courageous. My favorite saying is fail gloriously. You're going to go in, you give it a whirl, you go down in flames. So what? It just, you're playing with it and you figure it out as you go along.
Well, what about sometimes the networking aspect of those things might be worth more than maybe what you even learn from there, what's being
You
taught?
mean networking to market yourself as
I
the
mean,
actor?
just people getting to know more people.
Oh, yes.
the
Oh,
networking
you're
aspect
absolutely
of
right.
it.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the more it's a networking game. So by going to when I moved to LA, the first thing I did was get in a workshop. And that's how I met my wife, actually. She was an actress there. But I met a lot of people. And the school I went to, my first agent I got was because an actress that had gone to that conservatory, I got to know that person in LA. And she said, "Oh, my agent has this role that you'd be right for. I'm going to bring your picture and resume in." And I got my first agent. It's
Nice.
all networking, all of it.
John, any final thoughts from you?
I think that sums it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joyce, do you have a final question or final thoughts?
I'd just like to say thanks to Shelley for being our guest speaker tonight. I've learned a lot of questions and answers I didn't know I had. It's very informative and enjoyed every minute. I'm glad you came.
Thank you, Joyce.
Lori, do you have a final question or any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you, Shelley. It's been really enjoyable to listen to you, and especially thinking about how you I believe you had said that you were thinking about becoming a poet or a psychologist, and then describing sort of different things that you've done along the way, and just sort of following what interested you and what you're passionate about. I just really enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I need to ask, is Shelley Lipkin a stage name? Because you don't meet a lot of men named Shelley. I'm sure you've had to deal with that your entire life.
No, it was my name is Sheldon. And
Oh, okay.
And I never liked the name Sheldon because I always thought it was too formal sounding. And anyone that called me Sheldon, I'd look around for my father and berating me for something. So no, it was always Shelley. And I thought of actually changing it because I thought it's too confusing. People would think I'm a woman, and they
Right.
always did. So, but it became my name.
Yeah, well, I mean, if once you're established in the industry, that's fine. But I'm sure some of those early days when they were looking you up, they, for like casting, they're thinking, okay, we can bring her in, and then you walk
Oh
in, and
yeah,
they're like,
definitely.
wait, what?
All the time. Yeah.
We are just about done here, but Shelley, I want to give you the final word tonight. So if you have any advice or suggestions or anything that you want to say, the floor is yours, sir, for anything that you want to share.
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you. I really mean that. My dog is now whining. Stop whining. No, I feel really honored to be part of this. This was cool. You have a neat group of people there. And anytime I can in the future help you out, let me know. I'd be glad to. And if there's any one word of advice, is stay in there. Keep doing it. There are no guarantees, but keep the faith. It'll happen.
Can I follow up with you later?
Sure. Anytime.
I'll forward you his email address. Then,
Thank you.
So that you.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Shelley, thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening to speak with us. I wish we could have had a larger group, but circumstances being what they are, this was, as always, a ton of fun. We do this once a month, where we bring in someone from the industry to talk, and it's always engaging, interesting, and educational. And I think we all kind of learned a lot tonight. So thank you very much for taking the time out. I'm glad that it was enjoyable for you too. And we'll look forward to whatever future projects you may still have to come. I did see that there was, in fact, I think, we just closed submissions, but I think a film that you just worked on is in our submissions for this year's festival too, right? Losing Addison, right?
Oh yeah, it wasn't my film. I would acted in that. So,
okay, so
yeah.
I believe that was submitted for our festival this year.
Oh,
and,
neat.
And for those who remember last year's festival, you may remember his film Inheritance that I thought was very, very well done. I know it didn't win an award, but I will tell you it was very highly rated by our judges.
Oh,
so
good.
People really enjoyed that film and just thought that it was really well done across the board. And I think that was your first, if I remember correctly, you said that was your first time ever directing, right?
Yeah, for film.
Yeah.
I've done tons of stage directing, but never film.
Yeah.
As someone who has his own, strong relationship with his sister, the way that they interacted it felt very, very real. That was very well done.
Oh, good. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shelley. We will call it a night. Best of luck with all future projects, and we may come calling for your help again at some time in the future to come hang out with us. So
this was a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, Lori, Joyce, and John and Belwyn for showing up. We appreciate it. And we'll do this again the first Thursday of July.
Okay.
So
Thank you all.
everybody.
Have a good night.
It's been wonderful talking with you.
Bye-bye.